guitar that I'm playing is a 1940 Gibson L-O-O, and I'm the second owner of it. I've had this guitar about 4 years. A friend of mine down in Lexington, North Carolina, named Aaron Morris, works on my guitars for me. And I've got another one of these, but it's been refinished. It's a 1937, and it's a great little guitar. I've played it here before. But I was in Aaron's shop picking up that other guitar. He'd done a little work on it. And I said, you know, I'd like to have one of these that hadn't been refinished, just an original one, you know. Sometimes if you run across one that you think's a good one, holler at me. Well, I was through there on the road, and I stopped in. We were going to have lunch at the Southern Lunch there in Lexington, and I walked in his shop, and he said, I think I found you a little guitar. I said, what is it? He opened it up, and I pulled it out of the case, and I said, yeah, I really like it. I said, who's got it? He said, it belongs to the music store in town. He said, they called me and said it was in pretty rough shape. He said, just get it playable. So he pulled the neck out of it and reset the angle on the neck, got the action back down where it needed to be. It needed frets, needed a set of tuners. Other than that, it's not beat up, it's not cracked bad or anything, you know, it's in pretty good shape. It sounds great, it plays great. So he said, I'm getting ready to take it back to the music store, so we took it up there, and I asked the guy, I said, what do you need for it? And he told me, and I said, oh, yeah, I can do that. So I gave him the money, and I said, and as I always do when I trade for old guitars, I've had dozens and dozens of them. I said, do you know anything about this guitar? And he said, well, I was with a customer one day not long ago, and this elderly lady, about your age, this elderly lady came in, didn't even have a case for it, just walked in with this old guitar and laid it on the counter, and he said, I knew what she wanted. She wanted to get that guitar fixed up. I could tell it needed work, you know. She brought it in to get it fixed up, and so he said, I got through with my customer and walked over, and he said, now what can I do for you, ma'am? And she said, this was my father's guitar. He played it his whole life, and he loved Hank Williams. He played a Hank Williams song. Then they were from little town, Whiteville, Kentucky, in eastern Kentucky. Her dad had played this guitar, bought it new at a furniture store in Lexington in 1940, before World War II. And she said, and I've got 2 teenage sons, one 13 and one 15, that live with me, and they want to learn to play this guitar. And he said, all right. And he said, and what can I do to help you with it? She said, what will you give me for it? She said, I can't stand guitar music. So these 2 teenage boys didn't get to get their great-grandfather's guitar and learn to play guitar. I hope they live with her till she dies and they both become rock and roll drummers. So I took the guitar home and I started writing, you know, trying to write songs on it, see if there are any songs in it. That's what I do. I get old guitars and see if there's any new songs in it, you know. And I got an email one day, and it said, I understand you have my father's old guitar. Would you please call me? Well, as I say, I've got a vault full of old guitars, old Martins and Gibsons. And I keep them all. I've had, like I say, dozens of them. Anyway, I just wrote him back and I said, I have lots of old guitars, and I may very well have a guitar that once belonged to your father. Can you describe it? And he wrote me back and said, at your convenience, could you call me and we'll talk about it? So I called him. He said, I don't have any idea what the guitar, I don't remember what the name on it was or anything like that. He said, but I know that you bought it just very recently at a guitar store in Lexington, North Carolina. It was his twin sister who had brought the guitar in and sold it. This guy had just retired from the military. He he and his sister and his mom and dad lived in Kentucky, and his dad would take this guitar out on the weekend and play bars up and down eastern Kentucky and over in West Virginia, play Hank Williams songs. He'd come in dragging this guitar Sunday night, and that his wife there with those two young'uns waiting for him to get home, gone every weekend. And one Sunday night he came dragging in, and his wife met him at the door, and she looked at him with that guitar case and said, "Tomorrow morning one of you's leaving." So the next day, or she said, "One of us is leaving, either me or the guitar." And the next day she took the daughter and moved back to her parents in Lexington, North Carolina. And he stayed and left the son there with his dad. They were, I think, 10 or 12 at the time. So his dad would take him around with him on the weekends, and the kid loved it, the guy did. And he'd take him to all these bars, and he knew all the bartenders. He'd set him up at the end of the bar where he was going to be playing, and the kid would drink RC colas and eat 3 Musketeer candy bars until 2 o'clock in the morning, and they'd drive back to wherever they were going, some little motel, and then back in on Sunday night. And so the kid graduated from high school, joined the Army, went off and did 30-some years in the military. And every year he would take his 30-day leave and come back to Whiteville, Kentucky. And him and his dad would go around. His dad would play all those shows, and he would go with his dad. That was their time together. They grew up together doing that, you know, him and the old guitar. And so I said, "Well, I tell you what," I said, "if you can give me any part of what I gave for the guitar or nothing, whatever I can do," I said, "give me your address and I'll send you your dad's guitar." He said, "Well, I tell you what," he said, "when I found that the guy at the music store, I'd left my card with the guy. If you run across anything else, call him." The guy at the music store had given him my number, email address off the card. And he said, "My dad tried to teach me to play the guitar. He said, I can't play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." He said, "I love that old guitar." He said, "But it needs to belong to somebody like my dad that loved it and played every day." He said, "I tell you what," he said, if you'll write a song about my dad," he said, "that'd be the greatest honor." He said, "I would love for you to keep that guitar." So I wrote this song. Last time he saw his dad, he was in a rest home. He developed dementia. And he was on his way to Afghanistan when he landed in the green zone over there. They met him at base operations and told him his dad had passed away on his flight over there. And it took him 4 days to get home, and he got home and picked up his dad's ashes at the crematorium there and went to the nursing home and asked where his dad's stuff was. And they said, "Well, we sent it to the only address we had, and that was his sister's address in Lexington." Just when I thought his mind was all but gone, yesterday he sang me an old song. And then he looked at me and said, "Don't I know you?" And I smiled and said, "Yeah, Dad, sometimes you do." Well, I wished you'd known him how he was before. The wire on the windows and the locks on the doors. Back when he used to sing on the radio. Take me with him everywhere he goes. We had a lot of good years and a long goodbye, but I hear angels' wings nearby. Tell me, what am I gonna do here without him? Maybe I'll try and write a song about him. There are lots of folks who tell me all the time that he could like to sing Hank back in his prime. So lonesome I could cry when he'd sing that tune. He could bring a tear to the eye of the man in the moon. We had a lot of good years and a long goodbye, but I hear angels' wings nearby. Tell me, what am I gonna do here without him? Maybe I'll try and write a song about him. Well, you know it makes me sad, but you know it hurts like hell, but it makes me glad to know that he don't hurt and he ain't sad. Wish we were sitting in some bar sharing a beer, but I guess we'll split this last Three Musketeers. We had a lot of good years and a long goodbye, I hear angels' wings nearby. Tell me, what am I gonna do here without him? Maybe I'll try and write a song about him.